There was a case in Chichester a few years ago where a lady was trafficked from China into a Chinese restaurant in Chichester. She was, as part of that process of her being brought to the UK, she was told that she owed a debt of £20,000 and that she had to work basically as a slave. It's a kind of form of slavery. So she had to work every day, really long hours every day, labouring away in this restaurant, and she never got paid any money. She was never paid any money because all her earnings went to pay off the debt. The problem is, in this kind of debt bondage situation, they never pay off the debt because the traffickers can introduce whatever amount of interest they want. It's simply a way of convincing people that they have to keep on working. They shouldn't ask for any money. They should just keep their head down and put up with the terrible conditions that they're being kept in. She, in particular, was not allowed. She was living in the restaurant as well as working there, but she had to live outside in the backyard. The quote was that she was using a paving slab for a pillow, and when her story finally came out, because she'd been found murdered.
Through a task and finish group, we decided we would concentrate on labour exploitation and sexual exploitation. The labour exploitation, we concentrated on our street community. We felt they were the most vulnerable to that kind of trafficking. You know, they're often down on their luck, they don't have access to money, they often don't have a bed for the night, they may have substance misuse issues, so they may be alcoholic or use other drugs. We've had a case in Chichester recently where a man has taken an offer of a job, was paid initially, was given somewhere to sleep, and then after a couple of weeks was taken away from Chichester to another area, kept somewhere where he was under lock and key, wasn't fed properly, wasn't given any money, and had to make his escape, and came back to Chichester and kind of told his story. So we know it's happening, and those are the kind of things we're trying to prevent. So working with Stone Pillar, we felt that was probably the best way to try and avoid some of those things happening to our particularly vulnerable community that, you know, are living on the street.
Within Chichester district, we have two related operations. One called Operation Accent, which I work on, which works on the exploitation and trafficking of Eastern Europeans, and then we have Operation Eagle, which is set up in terms of human trafficking in general, and they're both run within Chichester. We have examples where we've had males exploited in local travellers' farms and also at the local nail bars in Chichester, where they're being employed and then they're being exploited.
For any of us, we didn't realise that human trafficking was probably going on. We didn't think Chichester could have a problem with human trafficking, and I think most members of the public, if you were to ask them about human trafficking in Chichester, they would say, oh, it doesn't happen here. Chichester's a lovely place. So what we've tried to do is make sure that we're getting the message out there that it could happen. And you need to recognise those signs and those things that you're not quite sure about, or you're not comfortable with.
There's quite a lot of signs to look out for. Some of the main ones around an individual are people who appear to be controlled by someone else or following orders. You know, maybe they're not behaving quite as you would expect them to. Also people with low self-esteem, or people who are even malnourished or wearing really dirty clothes, or it's clear that they haven't been washing regularly, or their personal hygiene is quite poor. Other signs can include visible injuries. Either some people are punished by their traffickers if they don't perform well enough or bring in enough money or work to the extent that the trafficker expects them to. And those injuries can range from being burnt with a hot iron to being beaten with a spanner. I mean, they cover a wide range, but sometimes they're injuries that you wouldn't expect to see on a person. And what we tend to say to people is, if you see 2 or 3 signs together, that's when you should start being concerned that someone might be being trafficked, or they might have been exploited. There was a case where 200 people were trafficked from Eastern Europe on a benefit fraud, and the total value of that of those benefits to the trafficking gang was £2 million. The maximum sentence that could be given to someone if they are convicted of human trafficking, it went up to they can be in prison for life, the maximum life sentence, which is brilliant because before then all they could get was 16 years. And we know of a case locally where the chappie was only jailed for 4 years, and you think, well, 4 years, he's going to come out, and who's going to stop him from doing it again?
Should they be reporting that, make a note of the firm that they're working for, make a note of the restaurant that you were in, and then report it. And the best way of reporting it is on 101, because that's the police non-emergency number. We would say report it on 101, they'll take the details, it will be all that information will be passed on to the relevant people. If you're not happy about having your details taken, then you can always report things on Crime Stoppers, which is 0800 555 111, and everything you say will be treated completely in confidence, and your anonymity will stay that. No one will ever know where the information came from. So again, we would urge people to if they're going to report it, don't ignore it. It's happening. You could be the missing part of the jigsaw. So if you see something you're not happy with, report it. If it's something that's not relevant, it can be discarded. But if you don't report it, it can't ever be looked into and investigated.